Hey, I'm Sophia. If you love the thrill as much as I do, you're in the right place. From adrenaline-fueled rides to uncovering the world's most iconic machines, gear up and subscribe to Sophia on Wheels for non-stop automotive adventure. Here's a problem. Japan's toughest workhorse is smaller than a golf cart, runs on an engine closer to a lawnmower than a pickup, yet can haul a literal ton down alleys tighter than most American driveways. The K-Truck was designed to cheat the legal cage, a box of government-imposed numbers so strict it seems engineered to make real trucks impossible. So, how did inventors turn those millimeters into a machine able to challenge bloated 6,000-pound pickups? The answer begins at the ruins of postwar Japan, inside a rectangle of rules that forced engineering sorcery. Picture a rectangle on the ground 3.4 meters long, 1.48 meters wide. That is the entire footprint allowed for a K-Truck, about the size of a large mattress and barely wider than a pair of outstretched arms. These numbers are not just quirky trivia. They are the walls of a legal cage drawn and enforced by Japanese law. Every millimeter matters. Want to add a bumper? Shave it down. Dreaming of a bigger engine? The cap is 660 cubic centimeters, less displacement than a blender, and a world away from the 5-7-liter V8 engines you will find in American pickups. In the United States, the average full-size pickup weighs in at over 6,000 pounds and stretches more than 5.8 meters from nose to tail. It is a rolling fortress designed for highways, wide lanes, and the open spaces of suburbia. The K-Truck, by contrast, was born for a country where the average alley is less than 4 meters wide and parking spots are measured in centimeters. The rules are strict. If you go even a hair over 3.4 meters, you are out. No tax break, no special insurance, no sale. This is not just about squeezing a truck into a small space. It is a culture clash between the American belief that bigger is better and a Japanese design philosophy that treats every square inch as precious real estate. The K-Truck is an answer to a question most automakers never dared ask. How much utility can you wring from the smallest possible box? Inside these dimensions, engineers had to pull off a kind of mechanical origami, folding, stacking, and rethinking every component to fit. The result is a paradox, a truck that looks like a toy next to a Ford F-150, yet can carry nearly as much in its bed as some mid-sized pickups. It is a rebellion against bloat, forced by law and embraced by necessity. If you're enjoying this content, subscribe now. The birth of the legal cage. The legal cage was not a suggestion. It was a dare, and Japanese engineers took it personally. In 1949, Japan's Ministry of Transportation drew a line in the sand, actually several lines. Engine displacement was capped at 150 cubic centimeters for 4-stroke engines and 100 cubic centimeters for 2-stroke engines. Length could be no more than 2.8 meters. Width just 1 meter. These were not arbitrary numbers. They were the product of a country reeling from war, with cities still littered with rubble and roads that barely stretched 3 meters across. Most families could not afford a car, but a motorcycle with a cargo box was within reach, especially with government tax breaks and cheap insurance. The result was the birth of the K-Class, a regulatory bridge between scooters and full-size cars. But these rules did not just shape what could be built. They dictated how every millimeter had to be used. Picture an engineer with a tape measure, sweating over how to squeeze utility out of a box barely bigger than a park bench. The only way to win was to cheat the geometry. Enter the cab-over layout. Instead of wasting precious length on a hood, the driver's seat was shoved right over the front axle, freeing up nearly 60% of the total length for the cargo bed. That is a ratio some full-size pickups can only dream about. A Japanese automotive historian puts it bluntly, the law forced us to put the driver's knees in the crumple zone so we could fit more rice in the back. It is a brutal calculation, but it worked. With the cab perched up front and the bed stretching almost 2 meters, the K-Truck could snake through alleys and still haul a load that would embarrass a much bigger truck. Every constraint from tax policy to street width to engine size became a design challenge, and the cab-over solution was the ultimate hack for a country where space is always at a premium. The tiny engine that could crack open the engine bay of a modern K-Truck and you will not find a V8 or even a 4-cylinder. Instead, there is a 3-cylinder engine so tiny it could double as a countertop appliance. 660 cubic centimeters, capped by law since 1990. That is the entire limit. Not a guideline, not a suggestion. But here is the twist. Inside that micro heart beats the kind of technology you would expect in a much pricier machine. Multi-valve heads, fuel injection, and in some models, a turbocharger that spins like an angry wasp. A K-truck mechanic, sleeves rolled up, rolls the truck onto the dyno. The numbers do not lie. 63 horsepower at peak, right up against the legal ceiling. But the real story is torque low and flat, built for hauling, not for speed. Forced induction options, especially after the 1990 regulation, let these engines punch above their weight. Turbocharged variants squeeze every legal watt, all while sipping fuel at rates American pickups can only dream about. Dyno graphs from the shop wall tell the story in sharp lines. A narrow band of power, but tuned for utility. The three-cylinder layout is not just a cost cut, it is the optimal balance for vibration, packaging, and emissions. Engineers did not just accept the 660 cubic centimeter limit, they turned it into a proving ground. The result is a micromotor that can lug a half-ton of gravel up a mountain road, all while staying inside the legal box. That is not just compliance. That is a masterclass in mechanical judo. Two schools of packaging philosophy. The Honda Acti and Subaru Sambar do not just share a parking lot. They represent two clashing schools of packaging philosophy. The Acti, with its mid-engine layout, puts the engine right behind the seats, almost like a shrunken supercar. This is not about showing off, it is about balance. By planting the engine in the middle, the Acti keeps its center of gravity low and its weight evenly split between the axles. On a winding mountain road or a muddy farm path, that means less nosedive under braking, more predictable handling, and a truck that feels glued to the ground even when the bed is empty. The Sambar, meanwhile, takes a different approach. Its rear engine and rear-wheel drive setup is pure mountain goat logic. With the engine perched over the back axle, the Sambar delivers traction where it matters most, straight to the drive wheels. Unloaded, it feels a little light up front, but throw a few bags of rice or a load of bricks in the back and the Sambar digs in for the climb, refusing to spin or stall. It is the same trick Porsche uses for their 911, just with more mud and less bravado. But the real party trick is not just where the engine sits. It is what happens when you drop the shifter into ultra-low gear. K-trucks are famous for their super low first gear, with ratios so steep they make a mountain trail look like a gentle slope. This is not about speed, it is about leverage. A 660 cubic centimeter engine does not win drag races, but with mechanical advantage on its side, it can crawl up a 30% grade with a half-ton payload, all while the attach barely breaks a sweat. That is not brute force. That is engineering judo, using leverage to turn a regulatory handicap into real-world muscle. Specialization as survival. Specialization is not a marketing gimmick for the K-truck. It is a survival trait. In the apple orchards of Nagano, you will find scissor lift variants that rise straight up between rows, letting workers pluck fruit without ever setting foot on a ladder. In construction, dump bed models haul gravel through alleys barely 2 meters wide, squeezing through spaces that would leave a Ford F-150 wedged like a cork in a bottle. Then there is the deck van 4 doors, a compact cab, and just enough bed to carry tools or seedlings, all while fitting inside the same legal box as every other K. Fire departments in rural Japan rely on micro-pumper versions, tiny trucks packed with hoses and water tanks able to dart down lanes that a full-size engine would not dare enter. Each variant is purpose-built, not just for pride, but because the economics demand it. When a single vehicle has to serve as farmhand, delivery van, and emergency responder, there is no room for wasted space or generic solutions. The payoff is everywhere. Lower operating costs, less fuel burned, and a fleet that can tackle jobs American trucks would not even attempt, all without breaking the rules of the legal cage. The rebellion continues. Today, as cities sprawl and trucks balloon past 3 tons, the K-truck's geometry of absolute utility throws down a gauntlet. What if less really is more? Inside a legal cage, engineers made a mountain goat from a lawnmower. Sometimes constraint breeds rebellion, and that rebellion still fits in your garage. Now tell me what you think of the engineering structure of K-trucks in the comments. And if this reveal impressed you, get a sneak of the Hilux Champ, which is readily available to buy and which is now blowing up the automotive market. Sales popped on the upper left of your screen.